used to feel like worry and anxiety were constant companions of mine. And I often used to just think to myself, how on earth do I stop this? How do I stop torturing myself and worrying about something? Hey, Rebels. Okay, today we're going to riff on a really, really common question. How do I stop worrying so much? Perhaps this is something that you've just sat and found yourself wondering about. I know I did. I know in the past I used to feel very future heavy. I used to feel like worry and anxiety were constant companions of mine. And I often used to just think to myself, how on earth do I stop this? How do I stop torturing myself and worrying about something? Now, the late great Alan Watts, he has a fantastic quote. He says, "No amount of anxiety makes any difference to anything that is going to happen." And that's absolutely true, right? The the events or whatever that are going to happen, they're going to happen the way that they go. The irony is that often the worry and the anxiety, the feeling that we often have, I think, even if it's unconscious, is that the worry is going to make a certain scenario less likely to happen, right? Or more likely to happen. But it doesn't work like that. We often, I guess, the one way it could work is if we're consumed with worry and anxiety and we're looking for evidence of what could go wrong, then we could kind of manifest that in a way, not in any kind of like metaphysical sense, but in the sense of, because we're filtering for evidence of that, what the thinker thinks the prover proves. So to be free of worry often allows us to just be much more connected to the wisdom that's inside of us, right? So how are we going to stop worrying? Well, it looks to me that the thing that has to happen is that we have to see for ourselves, really truly see for ourselves the futility of it. Not just here, not just getting it intellectually, just like I can see how worry isn't helping me, right? But at every level of our being, in our neurology, in our physiology, at every kind of, in all of these different systems, for it to deeply, more and more deeply kind of filter through every single part of our being, for us to understand, okay, worry isn't actually helping me in any way. It's not actually buying me anything. Now, I think another thing that can be very, very powerful is coinciding with that realization and the deepening of that is, well, what can I trust then, right? Because if I'm gonna not think so much about something, if I'm not gonna kind of ruminate about something and overly plan it and all this kind of stuff, what am I gonna bring in its place? What am I gonna trust? And the answer to that is wisdom. The answer to that is everything that's available to you now in this moment that isn't available to you in your visions of the future and visions of the past, right? All of the conceptualization, imagination, as wonderful and as beautiful as that is, it's not where all of your wisdom resides. Your wisdom resides now in this moment, the intelligence behind life guiding you, and it can only do it in the present moment. Wisdom is adaptive and new and fresh. The moment it's put into a concept, it's not wisdom anymore. It's an echo of wisdom. Wisdom is the intuition that comes to you in the moment, and you can bank on that helping you. So, as it looks to me, the balance of how we approach these things so that we stop worrying so much is we ask ourselves, what are the things that I actually want to do practically? What do I need to plan? Right. So, say we've got that event coming up on Saturday. All right. What are the 5 or the 6 things that we actually need to do in order to make sure that we've planned to have a good time, or we've prepared, the event or whatever it might be, and then letting everything else go? Because what we tend to do, in my experience, is we plan the big things, the important stuff, and then we worry continually about all these other things that could happen. And we play the what if game with ourselves. And it's often the what if it all goes wrong game, right? We very rarely play the what if it all goes right game with ourselves, in my experience, right? But we're kind of moving only into the kind of like, oh God, stuff, when actually there's a whole wealth of different things that can happen, right? Often, if there's something that can really help us, it's going to take us a few minutes, right? So maybe there's that event coming up, or maybe there's a job interview, or maybe, whatever it happens to be, we're going to have that conversation with that person. Maybe there is something you can do that is going to take you just a few minutes, right? There's a few things you can jot down. There's a bit of research you can do, whatever it might be. Stuff that's like common sense, right? If I'm going to go into a cooking competition and I don't know any recipes, it's common sense for me to kind of have a bit of a think about what I'm going to cook, right? Unless I really am just going to rely on my kind of in the moment inspiration. But if I wanted to have a bit of a framework, I'd do a bit of research or whatever, right? Or I might practice it a few times, but everything else I'm going to let go of. And if I notice my system kicking up all these, oh God, what if this happens? What if that happens? I'm just going to watch it, and I'm just going to allow it to I'm not going to fan those flames, right? I'm not going to fan those flames. I'm just going to let them be there. And I know that over time my snow globe will settle, and all of those natural kind of wisdom systems will kick back in. Right now, here's an analogy I've often shared around this. If you imagine at the local fire station, all right, like all of the firemen are there or whatever, and they're all doing different things. Some of them are playing pool, some of them are eating dinner, some of them are, everyone's doing whatever makes sense to them right now. Who would you rather come and rescue you at a time of absolute need? Would it be the fireman who is sat in his chair in the fire station, freaking out, worrying about all the what ifs? What if this goes wrong? What about this? What about that? What about this? Is that the person that you'd want to come to your rescue? Or would you rather the person who's done the training, thought about the things they need to think about, and is putting their trust in the present moment, right? They're just having a good time. They're sleeping well, because they're in the now. They're not panicking about what's going to happen in the future because they're putting their trust in something bigger than worry, right? Something much, much more powerful than any kind of worry that might happen in our mind. And we all know we do better when we have less on our mind, right? And it's all well and good saying, well, I'll just try and have less on my mind, right? But the thing that's going to allow that is for you to really and truly see deep inside, right? That you have got a huge amount going for you. And for you to really see that worry is not bringing anything into our life, it's not helping us out. And until we see that, we may continue to do it a bit. So much love and compassion and kindness for ourselves, but it can start to fall away and start to fall away. And I know for myself, if I get caught up in the idea that I don't have what I think I need, I think I'm lacking something, or I get caught up in those what if stories, I can get caught in stuff, but I can wake up to it and it can melt just as quickly, right? And so, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. We stop worrying by realizing deeply it's of no value to us. And that isn't an intellectual thing. That's a deep knowing in your bones. That's something that lands in your heart that you know is true. And maybe you've heard that during this. Maybe trust it. If there's a feeling that comes with it, trust that. But so much love and kindness and compassion for yourself. There's something you can trust in this life that's much, much more powerful than worry. And it is the wisdom that comes from the present moment. And it's who and what you really are. Go forth. Have an amazing day. See you soon.